संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्म स्वरूपिणे अवतारो वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। So we are very pleased today to have Swami Tyagarupananda from India. He is visiting US. He came here and on the 8th of April in Houston and going to different centers to have an idea how the Vedanta or Sri Ramakrishna's work is going on, to have a first-hand experience. Swami was initiated in 1979 with Swami Bireshwaranandaji, our 10th president of the order. And he has his background of economics, doctorate in economics, and he was all through the life connected with the educational institutions. So he joined in 1985 in a Ranchi sanatorium, and then in 1995 he was ordained into sannyas by Bhuteshanandaji Maharaj. Then he worked in Ranchi 1 year, as a long period of 25 years in Vidyamandir College and Devghar. Both are educational institutions, and Vidyamandir is a college. He was also the principal of that college also, some period of time. And he also was the Acharya, teacher in the training center for our novitiates. And he went to Malda in 2017. Malda is a high school. High school means 10th, 12th grade school. And he had 4 primary schools also. And that was Swami, our Sumana Sananda, was before. He was the headmaster of that school. And also during his time I heard that the 12th extension of the 10th to 12th was done, and a big school building has come out. And now he is the head of our Malda center, and he is the head, means the head of the both the schools and primary school and the high schools. So, and moreover, he is a good sadhu. So, so he is very humble, and he is connected with education or teacher. He is like a teacher. So academic person more. But I think he has also non-academic side also, like a monk's character of going and giving classes and lectures and talks and everywhere. So we are very happy to have him here today, and he will be today's gospel class. But he, for his knowledge, this is the platform where Swami Prabhupada used to speak. This is the platform when all our Bhuteshananda Maharaj, Lokeshwarananda Maharaj, Gaunananda Maharaj, Atmastananda Maharaj all came and stood here. And this is the pulpit going on for more than how many years now? And in 1938 this temple was established. Right. So from Belur Math temple like that. So since then, this is the place, the small place, but this is sometimes become full, sometimes become half, sometimes nobody. So whatever happens, we are happy with that. But here nothing happens excepting talking about God, Brahman, Atman, Maya, this, that. Here people are tired of hearing that. That is the thing which we do from here. And we also celebrate Durga Puja, Kali Puja here, and Thakur's birthday and other things we celebrate. And that's a festivity also happens here. So this is for your knowledge. Yes. Okay, thank you. So I welcome Swami Tyagarupananda to take this. And he will be speaking sometime at the end. Keep some questions if you have in your mind. 10 or 15 minutes at the end, he will be speaking, a question answer session, and then he will greet all of you in the main door. Okay? Thank you. Welcome, Swami Tyagarupananda. I can go down to see you.
सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्म
This microphone is meant to be not too close.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Yes, yes.
That way. Like that.
सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो Ramakrishna te namaha. I feel privileged to be able to speak on this dais. Since this is my first visit to this country, I requested Revered Sarvadevanandaji Maharaj to tell tidbits of the historical background of this center. Swami Sumanasanandaji Maharaj, another senior who has known me for a number of years, other monastic members, Mahayogananda, Medhananda, revered Matajis, and assembled devotees. Today happens to be the foundation day of the Ramakrishna mission. So as I was coming from Houston on the plane, I took all the pains to find out some portions which could be relevant for this special day. To just get back to the basics, Swami Vivekananda used to say that this faculty of organization he has learnt after coming to America. What was the position when Sri Ramakrishna was alive? That was in the 19th century. In the second half of the 19th century, we had what is known as the Bengal Renaissance. The whole ambience was a cauldron where Western philosophy, coupled with the Sanatana Dharma, the Eastern traditions, were getting fused together, each interacting on the other. It was in this background that Sri Ramakrishna appeared, quite oblivious of the great social movements that was taking place not far off from his residence at Dakshineshwar. During these days, you had the Brahmo Samaj, ever eager to reform the Hindu religious traditions. You had the Arya Samaj, as well as the Sanatani, the traditional ones, who were pitted against the Brahmo Samaj and the others. So in this ambience, Brahmo Samaj, which was greatly ambience by the Christian religion, and you can even now, if you go to the Brahmo Samaj Upasana Griha, the places of worship, meditation, you see such gallery-like structures, the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, where Swami Vivekananda himself had sung during his student days. She almost resembles the Christian church style. Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, hell-bent on reforming the Hindu religion, to cleanse it of superstitions, decided to form a sect. But it was not easy, because the Brahmo Samaj, which was set up by Raja Ram Mohan Rai, in course of time, were divided into other sects as well. There was the Navabidhan Brahmo Samaj, which we would come across today, the new dispensation. From the very name you can understand, you have the hint or the impression of the New Testament, or the name resembles the New Testament. And there was another offshoot, breakaway, the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, that broke away from the Navabidhan Brahmo Samaj. And coincidentally, Swami Vivekananda would say in later days to Nivedita that if you go back to the roster of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, you can still see my name there. That is, Narendranath Dutta was a member of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. But he was a good singer and would frequent all the samajas, or rather, all the associations would occasionally take him in their choirs for singing. So I give this background because the day that I will be reading today brings in this discussion. Persons of the new dispensation are being discussed, and on that day, Ramchandra Datta is present, as is Mahendranath Gupta, the chronicler of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Ramchandra Datta, in a sense, is a Sanatani. He is not for the Brahmo Samaj. I give this background so that you can understand the background where Sri Ramakrishna is speaking. The day is April 5, 1884, somewhat close to where we are now. Today is 1st May. Ramchandra Datta says, Ramchandra Datta, by the by, was a distant relative of Narendranath Datta. And in course of time, he took a part of the ashes of Sri Ramakrishna's body when it was put to the pyre, and he set up another garden house where it would be worshipped regularly. So he was an ardent devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. So on that day, Ramchandra Datta is present in the conversation. Maharaj was mentioning a little earlier that sometimes people come in lesser numbers. He mentioned that after the corona especially, probably people are more careful after dusk. But when we read the gospel, you can see barely 5-6 persons would be present. So probably the number doesn't always matter. It's the content, it's the sincerity, it's the depth of the teaching which is important. Because imagine these teachings delivered 1884 was the year. Now more than 130 years have passed, and still we read the gospel, the translation of the Ramakrishna Kathamrita. Ramchandra Datta is saying on that day, "Sir, let me tell you about the lectures of the new dispensation, Navabidhan. While the drum is being played, the members cry out, 'Victory unto Keshab.' You say that dal grows only in a stagnant pool. So Amrita said one day in the course of his sermon, the holy man has no doubt said that dal grows in a stagnant pool. But brothers, we want dal. We want a sect. Really and truly, I tell you that we want a sect." Just a little background. Ramchandra Datta, as I said, wasn't very favorable to this new dispensation or the Nava Bidhan. Bidhan is dispensation, Nava is new. So Nava Bidhan Brahmo Samaj was established by Keshav Chandra Sen. And he had his followers who almost considered him to be one of the religious gurus, sometimes equaling him to Chaitanya even. Of course, Keshav himself was humble. He would come to Sri Ramakrishna often, but there were his chelas, followers, who had chanted that Jai to Keshav. So Amrita says, so Amrita said one day in the course of his sermon, the holy man, that is Sri Ramakrishna, has no doubt said that dal grows in a stagnant pool. This word dal in Bengali, it has two meanings actually. One is a sect, another is rotten leaves together are also known as dal. So stagnant pool is when these rotten leaves come together. So Sri Ramakrishna was fond of saying that if we artificially make a dal without having real religious fervor, then it could boil down to a stagnant pool. But these modern persons advocating the Brahmo Samaj, they want this dal, that is the organization. So today is the 1st of May, and Swami Vivekananda has again and again showed his indebtedness when he formed the Ramakrishna Mission on 1st May 1897. The place was the house of Balaram Bosch in Kolkata. But organization must be lighted by such inspiration like these lives of Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sarada, Swamiji and their followers. The mere organization, rules, fixtures, these are not enough. So the main point of Sri Ramakrishna probably was you require more of spiritual practices. It is only then that these sects become meaningful, that these sects can bring goodness or happiness to others, peace to others. So other discussions continue on that day. Sri Ramakrishna talks about the differentiation between sects, the animosity which existed even among the sects within Hinduism, not to say of Hindu, Islam, Christianity, others. So in those days, there were so many votaries of so many sects within Hinduism. Sometimes to a foreigner, he or she could get lost, which is the real form of Hinduism. So there these different sects would often speak against each other. So you can see this, Sri Ramakrishna speaking on that day. I see people who talk about religion constantly quarreling with one another. Hindus, Muslims, Brahmos, Shaktas, Vaishnavas, Shaivas, all quarrel with one another. They haven't the intelligence to understand that he who is called Krishna is also Shiva and the primal Shakti. And that is he again who is called Jesus and Allah. There is only one Rama and he has 1,000 names. The English is easy, but let's look between the lines. Sri Ramakrishna says about the different religions, first of all. See? He first mentions quarreling. Well, it hasn't died yet. It's still going on, right? So you can imagine 130 years earlier, what used to happen. The advent of Sri Ramakrishna, his doctrine of Joto Moth Toto Poth, as many paths to God, so all of them lead to the Almighty. Ye yatha mam prapadyante, tangs tathaiva bhajamyaham, mama vartmanu vartante, manushah partha sarvasha. In the very first lecture at the Parliament of Religions, in fact, Swami Vivekananda made a liberal translation of this sloka of the Bhagavad Gita. This sloka says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante. Yatha means as per their wish. Mam means me. As people worship me in different means, by different means, I show compassion, grace towards them. Tan tatha eva bhajamyaham. Then he adds, Mama Vartma Anuvartante. It is my path alone. Vartma means path. Anuvartante, they follow. Manusha, men, women of all kind. Sarvasha, by all means. Well, for Sri Ramakrishna, Swamiji would say in his Calcutta address that the whole life of Sri Ramakrishna was one parliament of religions. For the others, it was theoretical. For him, he had realized it. So when he says, we read this, not in Calcutta, in Bengal, or in India, even in all the Vedanta societies in America, I found, reading of the gospel is almost a must. So once again, let's look at the line. Hindus, Musalmans, Brahmos, Shaktas, Vaishnavas, Shaivas all quarrel with one another. Shaktas, Shakti, Upasaka, the worshippers of Shakti, Divine Mother, is Shakta. Vaishnava are the worshippers of Vishnu, Bhagavan Vishnu, the incarnation of the Hindus. Shaiva are the worshippers of Shiva. The different deities are being worshipped in different parts of the country as per their traditions or as per probably the holy spots near the rivers or the mountains. Sometimes languages would also be accordingly suited to the teachings. Just as Tulasi Das ji composed the Ramcharitmanas to give a more vernacular turn to the discussion on Rama. He had composed the Ramcharitmanas in Hindi so that it reached the commoners. So these different streams among Hinduism often were at loggerheads. This is what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. Then he adds those words. There is only one Rama and he has 1,000 names. Actually, this is a free translation of a Hindi couplet. Truth is one, he continues. Only it is called by different names. All people are seeking the same truth. The variance is due to climate, temperature, and name. A lake has many ghats. From one ghat, bank that is, the Hindus take water in jars and call it jal. This is Sanskrit word. From another ghat, the Musalmans take water in leather bags and call it pani. Pani is the Urdu word now. From a third, the Christians take the same thing and call it water. All laugh. Whenever Sri Ramakrishna uses English words, people laugh. Okay? So this laugh is because of that. Suppose someone says that the thing is not jala, but pani, or that it is not pani but water, or that it is not water but jala, it would indeed be ridiculous. But this very thing is at the root of the friction among sects, their misunderstandings and quarrels. This is why people injure and kill one another and shed blood in the name of religion. But this is not good. Everyone is going toward God. They will all realize Him if they have sincerity and longing of heart. A few days earlier, we had the privilege of going to the United Nations headquarters in New York. As in other places, in many places we found photos, demonstrations of the different wars that had taken place. In Africa, in Israel. In many cases, actually, religion comes as one of the root. Just to take an example, probably Hitler had animosity towards the Jews. During the Crusades, the Muslims and the Christians fought each other. Even in Africa, in some countries, Muslims fighting amongst themselves. So different sects of religions fight amongst each other. Often they do not know really what their religion is preaching. But it is that what their ancestors have taught down the ages that they consider as sacrosanct. But the basic content of religion, the philosophy of religion is unknown. Only some observances, rituals are known to them. Whenever these vary, they consider these religions, each religion to be different. So what lies at the root of religion? So in this, Sri Ramakrishna was unique. He had the courage to practice each of the religions. In fact, when you come across his life, even today, we would be surprised because at Dakshineshwar, there was a place of worship of the Muslims. Swami Prabhananda ji in his book has shown that when the main Maulavi, one who conducts the worship, would be absent, sometimes Sri Ramakrishna would go there and conduct the namaz. This has happened. So Hindu religion with all its different tributaries. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna practiced the different sects of Hinduism as well. It is not enough to say that he practiced the different religions. The Hindu religion itself has so much diversity that to practice all of them itself was a Herculean task. So, naturally, he is qualified to tell you that all religions lead to God. One of the another facet of Sri Ramakrishna's life, probably this could be relevant to this place, to Hollywood that is, was that he was an expert actor as well, right? In fact, his biographies are replete with examples when during his childhood days, he would once listen to a theater, a yatra, and could repeat it verbatim. Two of his biographies, the important ones, Swami Saradanandaji's book and the Ramakrishna Puthi by Akshay Kumar Sen, has vivid descriptions of how Sri Ramakrishna, during the noon time, when the elders would be resting in their houses, he would take his friends to the mango orchards, Manik Rajar Amro Kanone. We read in the songs, right? Manik Raja was not really a king. He was a small zamindar. In that orchard, Sri Ramakrishna would take his friends and tutor them on how to do the drama. Okay? No visitors, no spectators. It was only joy for them, right? But one thing was sure, that he had extraordinary memory. So this inborn, innate quality of being an artist, it was in him. In later days, he would say, I did not like arithmetic. Shubhankar aank bhalo lagto na. Aank means onko. Onko means arithmetic, right? So he didn't like arithmetic. Even the Pathshala, the small village school that his parents had sent him to, after a few days he didn't like going there, right? Laha, the zamindars, the local rich men, they were conducting a Pathshala there. But Sri Ramakrishna wasn't inclined to study, the formal study. Of course, he was not illiterate in that sense. There are manuscripts which he had copied from other books, those we had seen at Shihar village. I think other sadhus also had seen. But still, this formal knowledge wasn't his cup of tea. In fact, growing up still further, when his elder brother had tried to convince him that he ought to know Sanskrit, even to be a priest, then he had spurned that offer, right? He had said in Bengali those immortal words, Chal kola badha bidda China. Chal kola badha bidda is a vidya, knowledge which earns money, right? In those days, you didn't pay in cash. Neither do you transfer money as you do now. In those days, they would give in kind. Chal is rice, kola is banana. So you give the priest in kind in those days. So Sri Ramakrishna understood that his elder brother, 30 years his elder in age, was trying to convince him that he ought to be a good priest so as to earn a decent living. You can say, what was so wrong about it? It wasn't. But here was a wonder kid, you could call him, who had understood that learning should be only for the sake of knowledge, right? In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhakti Vishishyate. The Jnani, the real person of knowledge, is that who is devoted, had one point devotion. He doesn't want anything else, right? So even his elder brother probably wasn't able to understand him. But with this focus of mind, in whichever thing he would take himself to, he succeeded there. Remember, even at Dakshineshwar, he is actually coming as a priest or joining the worship at Bhavatarin temple was because of his being an adept maker of idols. What happened was, Mathur Mohan Bishwas, the zamindar, was moving around the compound and found a wonderful idol of clay. And he inquired who had prepared it. Someone said, Choto Bhattacharya has done this. The younger Bhattacharya, the elder was Ram Kumar, his elder brother, who was the priest who had taken up upon himself the responsibility of worshipping in the newly founded Dakshineshwar temple. Choto Bhattacharya, in his own mind, he was content with making this image. He didn't want any appreciation whatsoever. But Mathura Mohan was very much taken by this wonderful image. He sent a word that Sri Ramakrishna ought to take up some responsibilities in the temple. It was not easy to do so, right? So when Hridayaram, his nephew, went up to Sri Ramakrishna, Gadadhar, very intelligent, he understood why Mathura Mohan was calling him. He said, you see, Mathur Babu would call me and tell me to decorate mother properly. His elder brother is the priest, and my duty would be Beshkari. Besh means ornamentation, right? One who decorates properly. But I can't do that, he said, because costly jewelry are there, costly clothes are there. But can you take up the responsibility, Hridaya, of looking after those objects? If you do that, then I am ready. So Hridayaram was also on the lookout for a job, and this suited him to the T, really. So this was how Gadadhar or Sri Ramakrishna joined the worship works at Dakshineshwar. Later on, when Ramkumar expired, his elder brother, the onus fell on him that he should start the worship of Bhavatarini. It was this formal worship that in course of time took him to the depths of religious practices. For most of us, every one of us, we do some ritualistic worship, right? For many of us, it's merely mechanical, that we ought to do every day as a duty. We often don't question it. But here was a child, here was a boy, barely in his teens, he was 17 at the time. These basic questions came up in his mind. Why should we worship? Is this merely an image of clay, mrinmayi, or there is some conscious entity behind? Is she chinmayi? So this question gradually started entering his heart. With the whole day's duty of worshipping, in the dusk time he would retire to the Panchavati, the groves, Pancha, 5 kinds of trees, and there do silent meditation. It was this in course of time that gradually took him from one kind of sadhana to another, one kind of penance to another. But in spite of this, with all these religious practices, his propensity of singing, dancing, even imitating others was ever there. If you read the Gospel, you'll see he would observe people so keenly that he was a wonderful mimic, I tell you. It would so happen that the younger disciples, when they would come to him, they were in the schools and colleges, Sri Ramakrishna would mimic a lady who had come to sell certain things. The mimicry was such wonderful that these young boys would roll on the floor laughing, right? Mahendranath Gupta, the chronicler, would write in this book, he would say, how come? This is the person who had spoken about such deep religious thoughts. And now, like an ordinary people, you see how he is making fun. He is mimicking others. So this propensity of keenly observing people, making images, and he had a wonderful voice. Singing doesn't contain merely in tunes, right? Or even in the words. Bhava is important. The feeling behind the songs. In this, Sri Ramakrishna was the king. Bhave Raja, people would say. He would sometimes dance with such fervor. I remember one of his disciples writing, probably Swami Vijnanandaji. Vijnanandaji was a modern educated young man at the time. He would say, I couldn't imagine a grown-up person dancing, because they were Western educated young men, right? So an aged person dancing with others, they were not used to it. But here was Sri Ramakrishna, especially with kirtanas, devotional songs. He would dance, Vijnanandaji would write, as it were like a fish, a big fish, that swims effortlessly in the waters of the ocean, right? There was no reservations about it. No thoughts about who are the spectators, right? Whenever you dance, whenever you sing, whenever you speak, you are conscious about who are the persons present, right? But here is a person totally absorbed in his dancing. Only the song is there. Someone had sung, and that had acted as a catalyst, which had enthused him, provoked him rather, to dance. So I read out another section, as I was saying, where he had watched a drama. And after the drama is over, after the singing session is over especially, Sri Ramakrishna, very fond of songs, talking to the main actor. The actors came to his room to pay him their respects. This is May 24, 1884. The master, in a happy mood, became engaged in conversation with a fair-complexioned young man who had taken the part of Vidya, that is the main role, and played his part very well, right? So as I said, he himself was a good actor, singer, right? Master to the actor. Your acting was very good. If a person excels in singing, music, dancing, or any other art, he can also quickly realize God, provided he strives sincerely. Just see these words, okay? He has expanded the boundaries of religion. Religion doesn't contain itself merely in rituals. Even in singing, even in acting, if a person does this with his whole heart, when there's a flowering of your heart, you can realize God, he says. Just as you practice, he tells the actor again, just as you practice much in order to sing, dance, and play on musical instruments, so one should practice the art of fixing the mind on God. One should practice regularly such disciplines as worship, japa, and meditation. Swamiji, when he came back from the West to Calcutta, he had come back. This question was a live question in those days. Was ritualistic worship necessary? Brahmo Samaj didn't stress on ceremonials. In fact, they had spoken out of the Nirakara God. Nirakara, but Saguna. Nirakara means without form. Saguna means with qualities. So a God without a form, so you don't have a statue there, but he has qualities. He is compassionate, he is loving. He will show grace on you, right? So as you can clearly see, the Western influences clearly percolated down to the Brahmo religion, right? So when Swamiji was asked about such practices, he would say strongly, he said, can you show me another character like Sri Ramakrishna? If ritualistic worship can take us to such a person, make of us such a person, such a broad-minded person, that through these initial steps of ritualistic worship, he has climbed to the roof where he does non-dualistic sadhana under Totapuri, his guru. And then he ventures out to the other religions as well. Not content with the Hindu religious practices, unheard of really. Even after 150 years, we don't hear a person so meticulously performing the other religious practices. So Swamiji says that if these basic steps can take you to such a height, how can you deny the necessity of such rituals? At one point of time, probably you need to go beyond rituals, remove the fences, as it were, as Sri Ramakrishna was wont to say. But before that, these fences are necessary. Before that, this young sapling could be eaten up by the goats and the cows, Sri Ramakrishna would say, right? So in the initial days, you need to have such rituals to fix your mind, to take your mind towards God. Sri Ramakrishna continues. He is advising this young actor. The actor has said that there has been a death in his family. A death and a birth. He had another child after that. And also quickly. You are so young. There is a saying, the world is like a hog plum. The hog plum has only pit and skin. And after eating it, you suffer from colic. So you enjoy the world, but later you have a remorse that you shouldn't have enjoyed it that far, right? Sometimes after eating too much, we regret. It's similar. You are an actor in the theater. That's fine. But it is a very painful profession. You are young now. So you have a full round face. See the words, right? Afterwards, there will be hollows in your cheeks. They'll crumble. Almost all actors become like that. They get hollow cheeks and big bellies. Laughter. You can almost see around. Okay? That's in this area. That's what I want to say. Elder actors, unwanted in cinema, in the theaters. Why did I stay to watch your performance? He continues. I found the rhythm, the music, and the melody all correct. Then the Divine Mother showed me that it was God alone who acted in the performance in the roles of the players. So, Sri Ramakrishna, when Girish Ghosh, one of his most ardent devotees and a playwright as well, a playwright, an actor, he had many qualities. But sometimes, in earnestness, he would come up to Sri Ramakrishna and say, well, I want to give up acting totally. Well, Sri Ramakrishna would discourage. He would say, through dramas, people are educated in the basics of ethics and religion. Often what high philosophies don't convey, mythological stories, stories of the Puranas, the Bible, they teach us, right? Often philosophies, their principles go above the head because you have to ratiocinate. You have to understand the logic behind it. But these stories, these dramas, these anecdotes touch the heart. The Puranas, the mythologies, they are illustrations of the principles that are declared in the philosophies. So Sri Ramakrishna would encourage dramas again and again. So here it is that he is watching the dramas. In fact, because he was fond of dramas, often his devotees would arrange singing sessions and small strips of dramas. It would so happen that Sri Ramakrishna would, when there was kirtana, in those days kirtana or singing of Vaishnava bhajans were interspersed with narrations. It would be that Sri Ramakrishna himself would add his own narrations in the middle, right? He would be innovative. In between the songs, he would add a few words. He would get so engrossed in the song that the singers, the performers, the players, they would have an added enthusiasm. Sometimes it would so happen that he would start dancing and the others also would join in, the singers and the devotees as well. So here it was that through music, through acting, he was bringing out the deeper essence of devotees. What dry advice wouldn't be able to do, songs, wonderful tunes, and deep bhava. When you see a person who himself is immersed in the thought of the song has a new meaning in front of you, right? So this happened to all his younger devotees also, not merely the householder devotees about whom we are speaking now. Swami Akhandanji would say in his later days that Sri Ramakrishna, Akhandanji or another sannyasi disciple, he had said, I had seen once that Sri Ramakrishna, when deeply immersed in samadhi after a song, I saw his spine lighted, as it were. I couldn't believe my eyes. His whole body had grown in size. So when a person is engulfed by a bhava, the gross physical body has a transformation as well. We have such experiences in our life. When we get angry, our eyes bulge out, right? So all of us, we have such experiences. So when similarly a godly feeling comes to a mind, when a religious feeling comes to a mind, and a person has totally immersed himself there, through songs, through dance, religion has a new meaning for devotees, right? It's not merely theory, it's not merely philosophy. So I end the formal talk now. We had the first day when I read, when Brahma's devotees were there, and we talked about the different forms of practices and the unity. And in the second day that I discussed, here was an actor, and we saw Sri Ramakrishna in a new form, as it were, encouraging arts, encouraging different forms of worshipping the divine. So we can have some questions and answers after this. Thank you all. I know that the first question comes a little late and then the barrage of questions. Normally that's the trend, right?
I have a question. Are there any existing artworks from Ramakrishna that are like to be seen?
Oh, could you come?
Are there any existing artworks of his paintings or his sculptures that can be seen, like in modern time now?
That's it. So, Sri Ramakrishna, actually, when he was very ill towards the end, had given a prophetic statement. He had said, Noren shikha debe, ghore baire hank debe. I'll translate for you. He said, Narendra would announce in and out, that is within the country and without. Ghore baire, ghore is within the house, baire is externally, hank debe will speak loudly. And this, he gave a small drawing. I think after, that was a very rough sketch. We have seen that drawing. In fact, the other forms, well, acting, or even say, preparing a clay image, manufacturing a clay image, these can't be retained. But I can tell you another incident. It happened thus. Other than the Bhavatarani, or the goddess temple at Dakshineshwar, you have another temple of Radha Kanta. Radha Kanta is Krishna's image, actually. Radha's lover is Radha Kanta. There you have an image of Radha and Krishna together. And it so happened, in the very second year of the establishment of the temple, that the priest of the temple unwittingly, while carrying the image for its rest, an image is almost treated like a human being, right? So when he carried it for rest, it fell from his hand. And the leg was broken. So there was a big debate what to do with the idol. So the learned Pandits, they came up with their decision that this idol should be thrown into the Ganges and a new idol put there, right? So when it was almost settled, Rani Rashmani, the founder of the temple, decided to take the opinion of Choto Bhattacharya. He was barely 20 then. Choto Bhattacharya, Ramakrishna, came up and said, somewhat in an abstracted mood, he said, well, if it so happened that Rani Ma, the Zamindar, if his son-in-law, if his leg had been broken, the son-in-law's leg had been broken, would she have thrown away that son-in-law? She wouldn't, right? He would have tried to repair his legs. So that was a strange kind of judgment. But who was going to repair that broken image? That Sri Ramakrishna did. And that repaired image was worshipped for many years after that. In fact, recently I went there and was inquiring whether that repaired image was there. That repaired image is still there. Probably in 1926, say about 70 years later, it was replaced by another one. So he had repaired it so wonderfully that people couldn't understand later on that at one point of time, the leg had broken, right? Thank you. Yes.
So against Thakur's universalism, he remains a lifelong ardent devotee of Ma Kali. And he would say things like, I want to see how the Christians worship you in their churches. So do you think there's any significance in Kali and Kaula Tantrism being Sri Ramakrishna's home base? And is there a link between Kali and Ramakrishna's affirmative, inclusive attitude of all religions?
See, when you look at the different kinds, different religions, all of them have a source, right? Say, a religion born in Jerusalem, when you see the liturgies in Christianity and try to trace them back, you will see many of them had their roots in the Jewish practices of the time. Similarly, if you see the Islamic practices during their worship, if you trace them back, you will see that many of them had their roots in the Saudi Arabian ambience of the time. I'll give you an example. Often we in India sometimes almost equal Islamic religion with the butchering of cows and Hindu religion by the protection of cows. So I remember a doctor who had worked in Saudi Arabia laughing at me and telling me, Swamiji, you don't know anything about Islamic religion. That is why you are saying this. In Saudi Arabia, where will they get cows? Cows are not available. Their lambs are available, dumma. And so the initial practices in Islam had only sacrificed dummas. These were the later developments that came later on. What I wanted to say is, Sri Ramakrishna in his initial days had worshipped Mother Kali, right? And it was this earnestly as he moved along that path of worship of Mother Kali that he discovered that there are other forms as well, right? So it is not that he gave up that initial inspiration of his. Rather, because that was his starting point, he is considered today as the person who breathed a new life in Tantrika practices. We who come from eastern part of Bengal, we know that it so happened that Tantrika practices were often despised. Because Tantrika worship, in contrast to Vedantic practices, doesn't stress on monasticism, right? So, but Vedanta encourages monasticism. Mundaka Upanishad itself is supposed to have been composed for monastics. Mundana, shaving of the head, right? So what happened was, in course of time, Tantrika practices, because the proper votaries were not there, sometimes digressed and took an ugly turn. It was Sri Ramakrishna's practices of the Tantra which purified the Tantrika form. So much so that if you go to the Kali temples in different places, in many places Sri Ramakrishna's photo is also kept there. Although probably he hadn't visited that Kali temple. Because other than Bhavatarini, you have Kali temple in many other places, right? And one more point, in Kali, you have both these aspects of God, right? She has two hands on her right and two hands on her left. The left hands, one has a severed head of a demon and another has a sword. So this symbolizes, the left side symbolizes destruction. At the right side, she has Vara and Abhaya. Vara is boon. Abhaya is telling you that don't be afraid, I am there. So in one part, she is positive. She is benevolent. And the other part, she is ruthless, cruel. So Swamiji, in his poem, Kali the Mother, said that, well, all of us devotees normally tend to, he says, in fact, he laughs at it as it were, we tend to look at this benevolent aspect of God because we tend to crave for those good things in life. But what about those ugly things that we have to face? If you have a cancer, if you have a bereavement in the family, wasn't God himself responsible for them as well? So both the good and the bad things that you perceive in your eyes, for both of them, Shakti is there. Shakti is responsible. So Shakti must be taken in its totality. And this is what Sri Ramakrishna showed us. And it was left to Swami Vivekananda to give his wonderful interpretation to these philosophies, right? We didn't see any of the Matajis or mothers speaking up.
Otherwise, Nish has a following. Okay, there we go.
Maharaj, my understanding is that the earlier years, Sri Ramakrishna was regarded as an incarnation of Kali. To support this, when he dies, Holy Mother says, Mother Kali, you've left me. And I know from Shashi Maharaj, the people that inherited that at the first ashram here, that the mantra was actually a Kali Ramakrishna mantra. So I suppose my question is, how and why do we not acknowledge this as strongly now as was done in the earlier years? Because we have definitely moved into Shankara Advaita as a predominant thing, which one can justify by Swamiji's teachings. But Sri Ramakrishna, definitely there is this aspect. So I'm kind of curious why this changed.
That was a good question. Actually, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, if you see this book, one of my friends, she has written a wonderful book on this. She says that much of the teachings are conveyed through songs, right? In fact, today as we had this class, I couldn't sing at all. Neither do I have the aptitude either, right? So, but for Sri Ramakrishna, every day he would have at least one song, at the minimum. But if you see the list of songs there, as you go through the chapters, you would be struck by the fact that probably Vaishnava songs are more in number than songs on Kali or Durga. You see, in the Hindu religious tradition, there are these main two branches or tributaries, if you could call it. One is the Shakta tradition, which speaks about the Divine Mother, the power which creates the world and after a point destroys it also, right? In the Upanishad, you also have such a verse in Taittiriya Upanishad, which says that from which this world was created, that which preserved the world, and then finally withdrew it within himself. That really is the form of Kali, right? But parallel to it, you'll see in the Gospel plenty of songs on the Vaishnava tradition. In fact, if you look at Sri Ramakrishna's household, their Ishta Devata, there was Ramachandra. Ishta Devata, Ishta means what is desired. So all of them had names starting with Rama. His elder brother was Ram Kumar. His middle brother was Rameshwar. His name was Ram Krishna. In fact, they had other woman relatives. They also had names with Rama. Ram Sheela was one woman relative. So in spite of Sri Ramakrishna being a worshipper of Kali, this Vaishnava tradition was very much there. So because Sri Ramakrishna worshipped in the Kali temple and he had encouraged Narendranath, who was a strong Brahmo follower at the time, to call on Kali. You remember that wonderful incident when Narendranath was deeply into poverty, or he was unable to feed his mother and brothers. Then in desperation he had gone up to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna, as it were somewhat teasingly, asked him to go up to Kali and ask him whatever he wanted to. As it were, it was just in his hands. Narendranath Swamiji would say in later days, he had said this to Nivedita, that Mother Kali was thus made known to me. Sri Ramakrishna had kept that secret to himself till the end. But in spite of this, what I wanted to stress is this tradition of Vaishnava culture, songs, practices were very much there. So if only stressing on Sri Ramakrishna being an incarnation of Kali probably will limit his variety of religious sadhana. In fact, Swamiji in that couplet, famous couplet, says, Avatara Barishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namah, right? This is a verse that has been interpreted in many ways. Avatara Varishta. And in the Hindu religious tradition, as you all would be knowing, avatars are normally considered as descendants of this Vishnu, right? Of course, in the Chandi, you also see, Itham yada yada badha danavotha bhavishyati. The Devi saying, the Divine Mother saying, that whenever there are such abominable practices, when the demons come in, then I will incarnate myself. But you don't see such incarnations of the Devi being mentioned profusely. You have that Dashavatara Stotra, right? So there, the Vishnu, probably because it was a male-dominated religious scenario at the time. So if you only confine Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation of Kali, probably that would be confining his range of sadhana. This would be my answer. Thank you. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namami.
That is all right. Thanks to all of you for attending this program. Yesterday also revered Sarvadavanji Maharaj was telling that nowadays since it is being streamed online, devotees come less, but when Swami is coming from India, he should not have any that wrong idea that devotees do not come and what we are doing here. So our devotees should come, so like that. So we are happy that the good number of devotees have attended this very enriching talk. The Swami, we have just got a little bit of glimpses of his scholarship, understanding of Master's philosophy, Swamiji's spreading. All these things he has very nicely tried to cover up, finish it as expected to. And just a complimentary to Sharadesha Pramana Mataji's questions, why we have switched over to Vedanta. At least I don't think it is we have switched over. If you go to India, you will find that hundreds of, not only our centers, thousands of private centers. They have beautiful Kali Puja, Durga Puja, Jagadhatri Puja, all this mother worship is there. It is Vedanta is less, and this aspect is there. But in foreign countries, Western countries, since they are not used to it, that is why so secretly, without any pomp and publicity, revered Swami Prabhupada started Kali Puja here, that also. So in this country, Swamiji found that they are ready for something abstract, something formless. So that is why. And but where people
just to add to what Maharaj is saying, this concept of Kali probably is also a little, I would say, difficult and ugly in the eyes of many foreigners, right? This tremendous this form of woman butchering others, right? We normally see mothers as compassionate, loving. So this also probably hits at the idea of a compassionate God. This could be another reason, right? Maharaj?
Yes, they do not understand. In India also, there are people, they cannot accept that terrible form. But Swamiji's is Kalida Mother and many other, Mrityarupa Mata, many poems are there on the Divine Mother. Swamiji just showing, depicting that both aspect is there. We cannot have one side of the coin. Both sides are there. So that is what. So thank you, the Swami. I am so happy to have my brother there. And the center he is heading now for the last more than 7 years. I have been 12 years serving that center. So it's very nice to have him here amongst us. And I hope the Swami is enjoying his visiting our different centers, our devotees, our activities here, and the Mother Master Swamiji's and Vedantic ideas, Catholic ideas being spread all over this country. I hope Swami will be already enjoying and will be enjoying during the rest of his visit. Thank you all. Shardasha Pranam, you want to say something?
I was only going to bring up the point that Swamiji says that bhakti begins when you regard God as mother.
Master had all practiced everything.